Hello, I'm Sandra Barker, and this is part 2 of my book, Look in the Shadows. This chapter is called My Early Days. This book is my autobiography and talks about how and why a retired woman from Australia moved away from a comfortable life and all of her family to live in Indonesia. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you would like to receive notifications of when I release a new chapter. And hit the like button if you're enjoying my story. Before I get into the more interesting aspects of my life, I need to talk a little bit about my early days so that the things that I talk about later make sense. Born in Manly, a suburb of Sydney, and then living in Dee Why on the northern beaches, I was the youngest of 2 children, approximately 5 years younger than my older sister. I was very much a loner as a child and did not make many friends at school, and the age gap was too large for me to form a relationship with my older sister. I was not sporty, and as a family we would go away at weekends to a property on the shores of Lake Macquarie. I had to learn to play alone, but what I did not realise at the time was that this would build within me an independence that would benefit me later in life. What I also did not know was that I descended from a long line of extreme introverts. And maybe this was the real reason that I did not fit in or form friendships with others of my age. My isolation from peers in the life that we lived did not exactly assist in my ability to form social skills. We would spend Christmases and Easters, along with the weekends, on this property. And I remember feeling a sense of disappointment that we never celebrated these special events from a spiritual perspective. I do not know where this came from, as my parents were very non-churched, and faith was something that was never discussed. But I had an awareness that something was missing. It bugged me to the point that when I was a teenager, I went to speak to a minister of an Anglican church and asked him how to find God. I don't remember what he said, but what I do remember is feeling extremely awkward and very embarrassed. And as I left, I vowed never to do that again. I then pushed spiritual curiosity out of my mind and developed my love of the outdoors and adventure. In my late teens, I got into rock climbing, caving and bushwalking, and even did a snow and ice climbing course in New Zealand. This was mostly when I was over the age of 18, as my parents had forbidden me from doing these things when I was younger. But when I moved onto a university campus at the age of 17, they could no longer tell me what to do. However, these activities were not really me, apart from my love of the outdoors. Maybe they were an expression of my rebellion. I did not have the physical endurance to do most of them, and so it was a bit like barking up the wrong tree. However, in my university college, I became the social director. What a joke that is! The extreme introvert. But it was because I had good administration skills. I could organise things. One day, a young man in an army uniform turned up wanting to sell wanting to tell me about the cheap grog that they sold through the university regiment. A university regiment? I asked. That sounds interesting. After further investigation, I enrolled. This offered the adventure I had always wanted, and there was something about the services that greatly attracted me. After all, my grandfather had fought at the Somme in France in the First World War. He had been gassed several times, injured, and still had bits of shrapnel in his leg that he carried until he died. I loved the camaraderie and the sense of belonging, as well as the adventure of doing things with a purpose. My outdoor experiences came in very useful to me. I liked the weapons and joined the mortar platoon. It was there that I met a very handsome officer, and we started up a friendship. But there was just one big problem. He was a Christian, and he constantly talked about things of God. This really bugged me, as I thought that this relationship could never work out. We would constantly debate biblical matters. Then Easter came along, and he invited me to attend a Christian camp on the shores of Lake Macquarie. But this was a problem, as I had already arranged to go caving for the weekend down in Victoria. But a little while just before Easter, I got quite sick with bronchitis. This was somewhat of a worry, as the caves in Victoria were cold and wet, and they were at a temperature of about 3 degrees. Caving over Easter maybe was not such a good idea given my illness. So I asked about the camp at Lake Macquarie, but by now it was booked out. Well, it was only the day before the camp was due to start that I was told that there was a cancellation and that I could go to the camp. So off I went. I figured that it was a better option than sitting at home miserable all weekend, especially with a 4-day holiday. Well, I'm a very honest and open person. Always have been, and always will be. And at the camp, I boldly told everybody that I was not Christian. I attended the meetings and felt quite out of place, though I was happy enough to listen to all of their discussions. Being the introvert that I am, I did not really fit in, but it was still better than doing nothing. It was on the Easter Sunday that one of the adults came to me and asked, "What's holding you back?" "I don't know," I said. I couldn't really say that I was only there because I was sick and supposed to be out caving, or that I was there because this really handsome guy had invited me to attend. It was getting towards evening, and they had built a big campfire for everyone to sit around and share testimonies, when one of the adults came to me and asked if I would like to pray about it. "Okay," I said. "No harm in that, I guessed." If only I knew. He asked me to repeat the words he spoke after him. We started saying things like confessing my sins and asking Jesus to come into my heart. It was a very strange experience, as there was this voice speaking in my head at the same time. It kept saying, "Don't do that, it's stupid." But somehow I kept saying the words. I don't know why, as I had not agreed to commit my life to Christ. But then I felt this warmth come all over me like a blanket. I suddenly realised that I loved Jesus more than anything else in the world. I have no idea why or how this happened. but it did. And I have never forgotten the moment or how I felt. I then shared this experience around the campfire and was very surprised when everyone clapped. I was not sure what the big deal was about. But from that moment onwards, my life took an entirely new direction. It was 1979, at the ripe old age of 23. Strangely, the next day, my bronchitis had totally disappeared. But the next phase of my life would prove to be no piece of cake. If you'd like to find out what happens next, subscribe to my channel and receive notifications of when I release the next chapter.